We've talked on this channel about figures in the entertainment world. We've talked about singers. We've talked about Roger Waters, Charlotte Church, and we've talked about them not because we give a rat's ass what they think, but because other people do. They are culturally important figures, and of course, the the content of their ideas says nothing about the quality of their music or whatever it is they produce. You can enjoy Pink Floyd's music. You can enjoy Charlotte Church's music and not necessarily uh, be aligned with their views. But today we're talking about something along those same lines, but a little bit different. So on America's Got Talent, there was the Jerusalem Youth Chorus that made an appearance, made it through to the next round. Now, I want to start with how I found out about this, which is in a tweet, and I'm going to read out this tweet. This is somebody who is seemingly from their Twitter. I don't know him, but seems to be kind of pro-Israel, but light. So he says, the boycott movement's worst nightmare. A youth choir made up of Israelis and Palestinians has advanced through the audition round of the America's Got Talent TV show after a rendition of Philip Phillips' Home that visibly moved all four judges. And the tweet continues, and so I was already skeptical, but I thought I would look up who they actually are and what it means to have them on America's Got Talent and to showcase the fact that they are Israelis and Palestinians, which is what this is trying to do. So this is from their website. Their mission statement is as follows. The Jerusalem Youth Chorus is a choral and dialogue program for Palestinian and Israeli youth in Jerusalem. Our mission is to provide a space for these young people from East and West Jerusalem to grow together in song and dialogue. Through the co-creation of music and the sharing of stories, we empower youth in Jerusalem with the responsibility to speak and sing their truths as they become leaders in their communities and inspire singers and listeners around the world to work for peace, justice, inclusion, and equality. So it doesn't seem too bad, but there's kind of a hint that it might get worse, and I think it gets kind of worse at the end. Not necessarily that there's a problem that much with these words in some contexts, but the way they are used is a little bit of a red flag. And then their vision statement. We envision a Jerusalem and a broader Israel-Palestine defined not by hatred, division, and injustice, not by occupation, terror, and violence, but by acknowledgement of a shared connection to place, celebration of individual and collective belonging to that place, and systems that allow that belonging to be equally realized by Jews, Christians, and Muslims, Palestinians, and Israelis alike. We reject attempts to pit Arabs and Jews, Israelis and Palestinians against one another in service of systemic violence that robs all of their agency to even imagine, let alone choose a different way. Instead, as we create a home for all in the chorus, we seek to show what Jerusalem could be and use our songs and stories within a broad ecosystem of change as a catalyst to bring that future about. Okay, I mean, what caught my eye to begin with is that they put occupation before terror. Now, for me, only one should be there if this is truly people coming together from a Palestinian background and a Jewish background. They would all be saying, we need to all be like Israel, and we need to encourage the Palestinians to do that. And if not, we need victory against them. That's how real peace is actually achieved. But this is very much in that mission statement. It's very clear that this is a left-wing, left-wing thing. It's a left-wing propaganda vehicle, which, of course, America's Got Talent was happy to celebrate. I wonder if they would celebrate what my idea of such a chorus would be. I kind of doubt it. Daniel.
So, you know, it's America's Got Talent, so it's very like emotional and people are getting in together, you see the in the public. I recommend watching the video. You see in the public, people are crying, people are like giving hearts. When judges talk, it's like this is what we need more of this, the sort of typical. But when I watched it, I there was something almost like dystopian about it. Like, almost like completely forgetting, what is the conflict? How did we get here? What happened? It's this sort of like kumbaya, we should just live together, hold hands, and this will solve the problem. That's it. And we should just hug it out. We shouldn't hate each other. This sort of it is really like sort of like a hippie. Yeah, hippies from the 60s are basically now everywhere and are controlling everything. So th that sort of mentality is now everywhere. And I'm wondering, um, obviously on such a show like this, you will not see anything controversial ever. But I'm wondering what is like behind uh, or basically what allows such things to happen? Is it like unwillingness to recognize evil, unwillingness to like see, Palestinians have started this and something has to be done. Something has to be done about it. You can't, the idea of like hugging it out, like imagine I mean, yeah, imagine something like this coming out during World War II, German kids and American kids or British or Russian kids are just like singing in together. We should just hug it out. And hey, that's why I called it like dystopian. It's just so unsettling when you like know what's happening, when you know what is actually the reality on the ground. Watching this is really like, yeah, unsettling about it. And I have more to say about so I've read like a few comments under it, and actually many people have walked with many different views, and I want to discuss some of them a bit later.
Yeah, we should get to that. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, Gigi Ryder, for the super chat. Gigi Ryder says, some Palestinians do want peace. Only 70% minority want to escalate the 85 plus years war. There is no occupation except if redefined to include not occupation. I mean, look, I always ask when I hear about those Palestinians who want peace, like who are they? Name one. Can you introduce us to one? Because that would be great. And then I would ask what they mean by peace. Because is it the peace that has a Palestinian state run by whoever the Palestinians decide or allowed to take power by force? Is it is it an armed country? Is it what kind of Israel is there? Is Israel going to be forced to accept back all the refugees, which is of course something that I think even Hamas said will accept a state on the 67 borders, which are indefensible as such, as long as there's the right of return to refugees to Israel, which means there is no longer Israel. And so yeah, I again don't I agree with the people in the chat saying that it's not a 70% minority. It's a lot more based on all the information that we have. And again, the information that we don't have is who are those Palestinians who are innocent. By the way, Palestinians, when they say East and West Jerusalem, just to make it clear, East Jerusalem is so-called occupied Palestinian land, depending on who you ask. I mean, Israel acknowledges some of the claims against it. It doesn't when it comes to East Jerusalem, which has been annexed. Those so-called Palestinians there are citizens of Israel, so it's a different, there are no people who travel back and forth from Gaza to participate in this choir. Um, and yeah, so with their mission statement, there's very much this sense of there's a shared responsibility for everything bad that's happening. Both sides are responsible. And when you look at this conflict and say both sides are responsible, you are taking the Palestinian side because it is the Palestinian side that is responsible. And if Israel needs to do anything to change that, which is not war, then what is it? It is probably concessions to the demands of terrorists, right? It is rewarding terrorism. I still haven't heard an explanation from anybody who is, on the Israeli left, kind of, let's have two states, let's give them, let's remove the settlements and so on. How this is not a reward for terrorism, because of course it is.
So I want to discuss the idea of two sides a bit more because yeah, recently I've started really hating the sort of like when people try to two sides, and this came out especially so that there is one YouTuber. I won't talk much about him, but he had this idea of like two sides. Every time there were like groups arguing with each other, he was like, well, this side has some good points, this side has some good points, and when you're always like in the middle and you are not actually being objective or anything. Just because you are not on either side doesn't make it objective, doesn't make it any more true. Yeah, Israel has, in its existence, has probably done things we disagree with. I mean, they have military draft. I don't know, they are not completely laissez-faire, but this is not like two-siding. One is like a, liberal democracy, relatively free, and has ways to get better, basically. The other side is a theocracy that have no recognition of rights. This is not two-siding. This is just recognizing the facts. And it's similar here, like two-siding in this case, and many people do it, even the people who call themselves pro-Israelis do it. Yeah, the Hamas committed October 7 and it's horrible, but Israel is going too far. Israel has killed too many Palestinians. So there are faults on either side. No, Hamas started this war, and Israel, and I wish it actually tried it more, is trying to finish this war. And I wish it would do it in a much better way. But again, this two-siding is not being objective, and you're not actually benefiting the situation. You are helping the side that is worse in this scenario when you try to basically equalize them.
Yeah, it's an important point. Neutrality and objectivity are not the same thing. Neutrality is looking at two sides of an issue and not taking one of them, and objectivity is looking at reality, looking at the facts and judging it as what is right and wrong, and then very much taking a side when a side should be taken. Um, yeah, do you want to get to some of those comments that you wanted to discuss from the uh, was it from the tweet?
Oh, I don't know about the tweet. So okay, let me start with mine, and maybe then we can go to the tweet. But I've just went through like the YouTube comments under it, and there were actually many like pro-Palestinians, like, and I remember some comment like the big one was, and it's sort of similar to basically my comment at the start that this is sort of like, yeah, sort of ignoring the reality on the ground, and this is sort of from the pro-Palestinian side. Some people were commenting like, "This is horrible. This is ignoring the genocide that's going on in Gaza." So we have a problem with it because again, it's giving fuel to the Palestinian side. It's making them equal to the Israeli side, and then that's our problem. And a lot of pro-Palestinian, but basically pro-Hamas people are having the same problem because they see their side as good, as having no faults. And by putting them on the same stage with the Israelis, they're saying, Israelis are trying to basically gain the sort of what do you call it? Basically, gain the sort of moral stature from the Palestinians. And maybe I can just quickly bring in some more points. Someone was also bringing the fact that only the Israelis girls talked, because after they stopped singing, basically two girls talked. I read somewhere one was Palestinian. I cannot recognize. I don't know which one is which. I mean, some, let's say, have darker skin, but you have darker skin Israeli, so I literally have no idea. But the second girl actually had bring them home earrings, and they zoomed on it, so that was the problem. It's a problem that you recognize the fact that there are hostages in Gaza that Hamas took. You shouldn't make people aware of them. So yeah, just these sort of like comments were
Yeah,
entertaining.
many people in the West are happy to kind of channel the worst elements of Palestinian culture, and all the elements are pretty bad. So getting to the worst is not easy. But again, you would never, if they tried to do something like this, not even from with people from Gaza, but with people from the West Bank, they would, I think, have a problem. Like when they returned from Jerusalem from their practice, or returned from their trip to the US for America's Got Talent. They would have trouble back there because they are in a sense collaborating with the Jews. They're collaborating with Jews who are very much against Israel, as we see in that mission statement. But that doesn't matter. They're still Jews, and this is something that people seem to refuse to acknowledge. Again, we make this point a lot here on this channel. People don't uh, don't listen to Palestinians. The pro-Palestinian side does not listen to Palestinians because they are very clear on what they want. Here, that they package it up in sort of seemingly maybe ambiguous statements like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is not a clear statement of, well, it's a clear statement of let's exterminate the Jews, but you can then argue or try to argue, like Owen Jones argues, well, what this means is we want a democratic country for Jews and Arabs and, between the river and the sea, which of course is not what it's meant. They don't have these subtleties in Palestinian society. They are very clear. It's the Jews. They never talk about Israelis. They talk about the Jews, and that is their enemy.
Um, do you want to go to the tweet comments, or do you have something more?
Sure. Do you want me to bring them up? Because I don't
Yes, because I don't have.
open. All right. Let me. Yeah, there were. I'm not sure there was anything super interesting there, but let's see what there was. I mean, there are many uh positive comments there. So yeah. Oh, well, this is the first one that shows up. They sing well, the voices blend. Israel has Arab citizens, free and beautiful to us. The Palestinians have no Jewish citizens and want none. Look at the facts and not your sentimental flop. I mean, yeah, but still, yeah, this highlights the fact that there are Arabs in Israel who can self-identify as Palestinians, although that's I think maybe that's more common in East Jerusalem than it is in other areas in Israel. And when it is done, it is I see it as a political statement. Like, why would somebody who's been Israeli from the moment they were born, and their parents have been Israeli from the moment they were born, why would they call themselves Palestinian, a nation that has only existed for 60 something years, and these people were never a part of it. I see that as a political statement. But yeah, people want to look at kind of it's understandable that people want to find the positive, but unfortunately, to find the positive here, you really have to ignore reality. That is what you're ignoring if you want to say, okay, well, yeah, look, the whole society is united in their goal, their mission. Their mission statement is kill all the Jews. So this mission statement sounds kind of nicer, but it doesn't it doesn't defeat the mission of the Palestinian nation. And I think that needs to be ignored here in order for this to be celebrated.
Oh, I think oh yeah. So there were a lot of, and I really hate, I'm a really positive person, but what I really hate is like motivational, I don't know, tweets, motivational posts, and things like that. Or even like motivation. A lot of times on shorts, I see like motivational speeches from movies, or just like random people. And you have the comments under that. If only the elite like would stop doing what they're doing, and you see similar things here, like if only the sort of old man, well, of these countries would like stop fighting and let the people be free, let the people, the people are united, but it's always like old people, it's always like old white, well, in this case not white that much, but it's always like the old man that are like prolonging this conflict. And it's never that. You cannot have like a system, or you cannot have a war that doesn't have a support for a long time. You could drag it out for some time. But when you it doesn't matter if you're a dictatorship or a democracy. It's usually quicker in democracy, but even dictatorships fall when they don't have, when the discontent from the populace is big enough. So whenever you look at these conflicts, it's never that, yeah, there's like, it's Ismail Haniyeh alone, like wants this war and nobody else, and everybody else is fighting against it. This doesn't happen. It, you need support. The only reason why this conflict goes on for so long is the fact that Palestinians are still supporting Hamas. Palestinians are still happy with this war to go on. I think I make this point on every single episode, but it should be made. They they allowed hostages to be kept in their houses and are getting paid for it. The you have UNRWA employees helping them. You have Hamas using UNRWA buildings and UNRWA vehicles. You have hospital staff like knowing, like we have a camera footage of that, like seeing that the fact that Hamas is like going through with hostages and not doing anything about it, and then claiming that they had no idea that anything like that has been going on. So again, it's never, one or like few elites at the top that are like keeping everybody down and not allowing anything to happen. Masses are powerful. Masses can change everything. And masses in Palestine, sorry. Masses in Gaza, the Palestinians want this to keep going on. And we had the polls. They liked October 7th and they still want this to go on. And they do have a certain discontent with their leaders, but they want to exchange it for people who are more bloody, for people who are more violent, for people who are sitting in jail for killing Jews.
Yeah, and that's the thing, individuals are powerful as well. And a powerful, well-spoken individual among the Palestinians who actually called out against this, spoke out against this, could maybe make a change if the society is ripe for it. Now, we don't see such an individual. We don't see any reason to believe that the society is ripe for it. So what we get is mostly coverage like what we saw yesterday with the BBC story that we discussed in the reality show. Open Route. I'm not sure what exactly I said about schools and hospitals. Last week I talk about schools and hospitals a lot because that's where Hamas hides, and yeah, that's what that's what needs to be targeted if that's where Hamas is hiding, and of course they may be used as schools or hospitals, but often they're not. They are buildings that have the word school or hospital on them. I think with hospitals, in most cases, they are used as hospitals as well. But yeah, otherwise you are giving them a safe space where you tell them you can do whatever you want as long as you hide here, you can get away with it. Some more comments on the tweet. So or replies to it were, "I'm seriously crying. I hope it's true. Beautiful, made me cry. This is amazing." And there was one that had a few more words in it, uh, but maybe not much more profound. So it says, as a common thought experiment, if only Rabin wasn't assassinated and if Hamas didn't violently take over, these kids could have been today from anywhere in the West Bank or Gaza. Israelis and Palestinians were most close and hopeful in the early 90s. These kids, despite being discriminated in services and resources in East Jerusalem, are a living proof that Israel can transform the inevitable occupation into a prosperous integration by democracy and not force. I mean, there's so much wishful thinking there and so much ignoring of reality. So, first of all, Rabin was assassinated and Shimon Peres took over. Then the Israeli people voted him out because they saw the damage of the Oslo Accords immediately. And of course, we saw much more of it in the 30 plus years since. At any point, Meretz could have won a massive majority if people wanted to delude themselves like this person from the tweet wants to delude himself about what the Palestinians are. Now, if Hamas didn't violently take over, Hamas won an election. So yeah, eventually there was some violence as there is in Palestinian society, but they won an election. And the other side that lost the election also does not want peace because in 2000 in Camp David, they were offered everything that they supposedly wanted, and they chose the second intifada instead. So this person is lying presumably to himself, but then lying to the world about what and looking at this chorus and saying, well, this is proof of what could have been. Look, of course, if children are brought up differently than how they're brought up in Gaza and in the West Bank, then yes, of course there would be a chance for peace. If they were brought up to strive to be successful individuals in life rather than strive to kill Jews, then of course there could be a wonderful peace. There wouldn't be a war. But yeah, this person is of course at the very end. The last part of the last sentence is these kids are living proof that Israel can transform the inevitable occupation into a prosperous integration by democracy and not force. Yeah, the need for force arises from the force being used by Israel's enemy. It would be great if the Israeli left acknowledged that, because that would make Israel much more able to actually do what needs to be done. Daniel, any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
I about that comment that history doesn't work like that. Just because you kill one person or you change one thing, one decision, it will not have that big of an effect because it is largely driven by basically what is the culture like, what's going on actually. So you could kill all Hamas leaders and get out, and the Palestinians would just find someone who is probably even more radical or even more extremist. I mean, well, since we don't have much time, I won't go much into them, but the basic idea is that, yeah, history is not just a string of like decisions or actions. It is accumulation of basically philosophy in what are the ideas in the culture in the current era, and those actually drive the history. The single decisions are gonna shift it a bit, but they're not gonna change it that much.
Well, decisions relating to the hostages could be shifting history in the coming days, weeks, and months. That is going to be our topic for the reality show. I think many people might be upset with us over what we say, or at least upset with me over what I say. That's what I'm here for. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in a couple of minutes on the reality show.